Welcome to video 2. Today we're going to be picking up with the theories of government. So how we came up with government. What is government? Why did we need it? Did someone all of a sudden wake up one day and say, aha, today is the day I shall start government? Probably not. But we have 4 theories that we're going to be looking at as to where government came from. So the first one is going to refer to the evolutionary theory. Now don't think evolutionary theory like in biology, okay? We're talking about here that government came about because it evolved from family, okay? So I'll give you an example. In my family growing up, my parents, my mom and dad were responsible for providing protection, okay? They kept my sister and I safe. They provided services like, housing and food and clothing and all that kind of stuff. And they just took care of us, okay? They provided all of those things that a government typically provides for its people, at least in some way, shape, or form, okay? So the evolutionary theory tells us that government emerged from family. So think about a big, huge family that's wandering nomadically through the world, and somebody pops up and says, you know what, I think we should go that way because there's food and shelter and water over there. And people go, okay, sounds good. And they go that way, okay? That person who decided, you know what, we need to do this is taking on the role of the government, okay? The second thing is the force theory. And this one, the name kind of gives it away. The force theory tells us that government emerged when a group of people was taken over by somebody else, okay? So think about, you have country A and you have country B, okay? Country B says, you know what? I think we want to expand our borders. So we're just going to take over country A. If they're successful in that invasion, then that means that country B, okay, has taken country A by force and is now the governing body of both of those two areas. Third, we have the divine right theory, and this is probably something that sounds vaguely familiar to you from other classes. The divine right theory tells us that government emerged because a person believes that they have the power to govern or to rule because God told them to, okay? Now, this type of system, this divine right theory led eventually to an absolute monarch, okay? And this is something that was very popular in Native American civilizations, in Egyptian River Valley civilizations, also very popular in Europe all the way up through the Enlightenment, okay? That's pretty much when people were like, nah, not really. That's not really how it works, okay? And then last but not least, my absolute favorite to talk about is the social contract theory, okay? So whenever you think of the word contract, think about what that means. A contract, if you sign a contract, you are basically agreeing to a certain set of expectations or a certain set of rules that you're going to abide by, right? When I started teaching, I had to sign a contract. And that was me saying, yeah, here's what you expect of me. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So the social contract theory tells us that government emerged because people needed protection, okay? We needed protection against other people, all right? So if I, as a citizen, give up my unlimited rights to do whatever I want, why do I do that? I don't give up my rights because I really don't want them. I give up my rights because I know I need to do that, because it's one thing if I can run around like a crazy person, but it's quite another thing if you can run around like a crazy person, because then who knows what you're going to do, okay? So the social contract theory tells us that we give up some of our rights to receive government protection, okay? The government is going to protect us from all of the crazies of the world. So then moving on to a little bit more into the social contract, okay? There's 2 guys that talked about, well, there's actually 3, but 2 main guys that talked about the social contract. The first one, and probably the most popular one, the one that I agree with the most, is a guy named John Locke, okay? Now, John Locke believed that everybody is born with 3 things. He thinks that you're born with the right to be alive, the right to be free, and the right to have stuff, okay? And he calls those the 3 natural rights. So the 3 natural rights are the right to life, liberty, and property, not the pursuit of happiness. Thomas Jefferson switched that up a little bit later. But according to John Locke, the only reason that people create government is to preserve those natural rights, okay? Kind of like in the activity we did a few days ago with James Madison. We said that if men were angels, no government would be necessary. But you know what? Are people angels? Are we perfect? No, we're always going to be greedy. We're always going to want something that's not ours, right? And if there's no one there or there's no concept there to say, actually, guys, probably not the best idea to go and steal something, then we're just going to go do whatever we want, okay? So John Locke believed that it's the role of the government to protect the natural rights of the people. And if the government stops protecting those natural rights, then it is the responsibility of the people to overthrow their government and make a new one. And we'll talk about that when we review this section. So Thomas Hobbes was another guy who talked about the social contract. And he also believed that people, were born with rights. But he said that if we didn't have a government, like if we, for some reason, decided, this isn't working for us, we're going to try it again. If there was ever a time where people did not have a government, then life would be nasty, brutish, and short. Because without a government, people are just going to be crazy, okay? So Thomas Hobbes believed that people have to have an absolute government. We have to have a government that is 100% in control of us all the time. Because if we don't, if we're given just a tiny, tiny bit of freedom, we're just going to go nuts. So Thomas Hobbes would disagree with John Locke on the concept of what do we do if the government stops working. He would say, actually, John, if your government's not working, tough. Even if the government turns on the people, you cannot overthrow it because any government is better than no government at all. All right, I'm going to stop there for today. If you guys have any questions, let me know.